get ourselves there.
Yeah.
Get a nice little. Okay, so all right, we're live. We'll give people a chance to trickle in here, but we've got a quality jump. My roommate is a film major, and he had all this equipment, and he said you guys should totally use this. So we are in like 4K now. I didn't post this anywhere, but I'm hoping that it's live. Maybe I'll do that now, really quick, while we're waiting. Let us know if you can hear us in the comments. I see that we have one friend here. And leave a like, comment, say what's up. Talk about our faces and beautiful 4K imagery.
So glad I came straight from the river. Just trying to be authentic here.
Facebook. Those lights might get hot.
You got to get used to it.
What's a little sweat?
This does look extremely official now.
Yeah, we are.
You posted it as Oki.
Yeah. Just getting everything out. So we don't have the stream pulled up right now, but I'm putting it out on Facebook, and we'll get started here shortly.
Yeah, we got 3.
Sweet. All right. All right. Everything is out there on Facebook. Welcome to the Wednesday Night Paddler Podcast. Ooh, that's not right.
It's the audio on the computer.
That's what it is. It was tripping me up. All right.
Feedback loop.
Yeah. So I am Ed from Ohio Kayak Construction, and this is
Jeremy Scheel.
Also from Ohio Kayak Construction. I figured since we're out here on YouTube now, you guys might not know who we are. If you can hear us, go ahead and leave a comment so we know. I figure we do because Jeremy just had us on.
Yeah, did a live test.
Yeah. So
I used this fancy studio. We're doing this in a garage literally last time. We moved to a basement, so we're
big ups, you know.
Huge.
So there, one general announcement before we get started is that Whitewater Warehouse is still running a sale on Jackson kayaks. They are getting their new boat order in, so
Antics
soon.
3 people.
Antics 3s will be there soon, from what I've heard. Stop talking, Siri. So our events, we have a Friday night pool class coming up this Friday. That is going to be led by yours truly right here. The rest of us are kind of slacking off. I am moving. I'm going to the Tallulah. I'm not moving to the Tallulah, but I'm going to the Tallulah this weekend, so I won't be there.
That's so rough.
And yeah, I think I'll sacrifice my pool time for a little bit more river time. I'm not sure. Other pool sessions, we have Xavier pool sessions and Lebanon pool sessions. So if you have any questions about a Lebanon pool session, reach out to George Davis. You do have to register in advance to attend those. There are one-on-one lessons with him, and then there's also just general pool time, and that's at the YMCA in Lebanon, Ohio. Xavier pool sessions are going to be January 11th, January 18th, February 1st, and February 15th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. To be able to attend, you have to be a keel hauler member, which is $20. And then there's also a $15 to $20 ish lesson per week or cost per week.
It's like you got cheap all of a sudden.
Or a bulk price of $55 for all 4 sessions. I'm also on the fence about doing a private lesson, an hour-long private lesson. So that would be a one-on-one. There's only 4 sessions, so those would fill up based on availability and interest. If you guys have any interest in that, please let me know. January 9th is the next Ohio Kayak instruction pool class. We are still working on a pool for that, but we will let you know as soon as we do know it. And then January 24th through the 31st is the Pecone trip. Jeremy, you want to talk about the Pecone trip?
Yeah. We've got a group of, I believe it's at 8 confirmed right now, headed down to Pucon Kayak Retreat, which is ran by David Hughes. He was on, I think, the third or second Paddlers podcast we did back on Facebook. I've known David for, I guess, about 15 years or so now, but we'll be down there running different groups between beginner, intermediate, and advanced on all the local classic rivers around Pucon, Chile, which is a uniquely amazing place to paddle due to the abundance of rivers and the style of rivers that are there. Not to mention your scenic backdrop for the region is a bunch of volcanoes and other mountains that are just unbelievably beautiful, that have volcanic lakes at the that are 85, 90 degrees. Some of them basically a huge hot tub. A lot of the rivers run down the volcano or the nearby peaks, and they have some of the most unique features in the world, especially, and we won't be on this one on this trip because right now is when you're down there to run the Rio Claro, which is probably one of the most unique known or often ran runs in the world, which is something, if you haven't seen it, definitely just YouTube kayaking Rio Claro, Claro, and you'll love it. It's beautiful, but
definitely a bucket list for me for sure.
Yeah, it's on mine too because I won't get it this year either.
Yeah.
So people for next year, if you're wanting to do something like that, and by the way, the Rio Claro is class 5+, so it's not in the advanced course even that they run these days. It's part of the expert course, which it's not really a course. It's just you have a guide
and paddle.
Yeah, you show up and you paddle with them, and they guide. At least usually there's 2 guides. Back when it was PKH, which was same outfit, just very small. I just started up, which was when I was down there last, and we always had at least 2 of them with us who ran those rivers every single day. Multiple years in their cases. None of them are still there, but yeah, we've got a big group going down. Anybody who wants to join, I know we are eventually capped on spots, but there's room to join at any level from beginner, intermediate to advanced, and we get a significant discount. I think at this point it's $600, I believe, off.
So that's a rebate that goes back to you guys after everyone books up. So the more of you go, the bigger the rebate will be. So if you're on the fence considering it, now is probably going to be like the cheapest it would ever be. I know that flights are really cheap right now too.
They were.
Flights
actually have gone back up, and it's it's
well, you waited too long. Now you have to pay extra for a flight. So you have to get more people to go to get your rebate back to pay for your flight.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
But we are close to maxed out on the rebate, meaning everyone gets that max rebate.
Yep.
So I think one more person, we get the max, which I think is $700 off.
Sweet.
Which, depending on which package you do, that's like over a third of the price off.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
And it's just an amazing trip. You will love it.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. That caps our announcement. So we'll go into our first question, which is, Jeremy, what is the optimal throw bag length? There's a bunch of different answers here. This is the throw bag that I most often use. It's huge, and that's just because my parents bought it for a rafting throw bag.
So that's a raft bag,
and I put it in the back of my Antics. So that's where it stays most of the time. It serves me well. I would say it's too big for a lot of situations that I would need. But
which
I would
sort of
say
leads into what is the optimal length. And the answer is, what are you in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Where
for
are
a
you?
raft, that's totally
Well,
legit.
what are you in and where are you too? I
It
think that goes
abso
into it.
absolutely.
Big water is gonna need a bigger rope than a nice little creek, but
Not to mention that if you're considering that kind of stuff too, be thinking Z drags
yeah.
as well,
Yep.
either 2 prussics or
Well,
2 carabiners with pulleys on them. Because with a lot of water like that, if you end up in a situation where you're wrapped or pinned up to
yeah.
the raft, it's not coming off without a mechanical advantage system. So, but to get back to the point of the throw bag, so what Ed just showed is ideal for a large raft and big water. And it can one thing to keep in mind when you're judging your throw bag too, and your everyday one that works for most rivers you paddle, is going to probably be in the 60 to 80-foot range at most. Um, Consider the width of where you are. If you're paddling in West Virginia a lot of the rivers obviously much wider. There's reason to believe you could need a longer throw bag to reach something that's pinned,
Yep.
like in a sieve, to pull it out from somewhere that you're safe.
For sure.
So that's where the length comes in, because otherwise the main factor in the length, and this leads into a critical point of having, and everyone should have a throw bag, is to know how to use it, practice with it, throw it. We used to play drinking games to throwing it in a garbage bag,
Yeah.
outside rafting companies,
Yeah.
and compete against other rafting companies, and it worked because we had to use them a lot.
Yeah.
So when you're actually
Be
taking
quite
like
the incentive, I think, as a 22-year-old.
customers down the river and they all freeze up when you're like,
Yeah.
no, I really do need you to take a stroke right now. It's like, well, we're going in sideways.
Yep.
So what the factor I was getting at that's kind of critical is how far can you throw a throw bag? Because the rest of the length is really only useful to either pendulum someone down below further. In some events, the safest way to get them to shore is to actually use a feature in the river to let after they've grabbed a successful throw, as the current takes them down, you can let the rope hit a rock, create a fulcrum, and
Yep.
it'll pendulum them right into the eddy the same way the water's creating the eddy there. And then you can generally get to shore. And that's kind of useful in steeper, rocky rock garden type situations and other unique situations. For the Ocoee, the Nantahala, the Yakagani, including the upper Yakagani, in my opinion, I don't think you really need more than 60 feet,
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
I also would also stay away from the really thin rope diameters. When you're actually using it, it cuts into people, particularly the really thin football style ones.
Yep.
As nice as it is, I have one, and some of you've definitely seen it, when we did throwbacks back during class this summer. The reason I have that is actually for play boating, because we used to, also go downriver in the playboat. So I didn't
Used
have,
to.
back to Ed's original point, picking a bag that fits what you're doing. If you try to fit this on a playboat, you absolutely can, but it's not. It's going to take up
Yeah.
pretty much most of your space. So I use a tiny throw bag for a playboat because most of the time I'm not paddling. Well, pretty much all the time in my case, I'm not paddling something I'm anticipating needing that long of a throw bag, and it would primarily be used to throw to someone else in a rescue, and it's good enough for the rivers we're paddling.
Yeah. I would say if I had a disposable income, I would probably rock a 60-footer on most big water runs and a 30-footer on most creek stuff.
Yeah.
Just because it's not on a creek, you're not going to need anything that's longer than 30 feet, really.
Well, there is a one thing that I was thinking about earlier that didn't mention is what else are you going to use it for?
Yep.
Not only a raft extraction, but if you do portage on creeks, if it's a super steep creek with
Yeah.
drops, a lot of times you'll need to lower a boat down,
Mhm.
which is why one of a couple of reasons you'll see carabiners on most
Yep.
people's throw bags. And it's really easy way to lower boat down to someone who's already down climbed. To whole group decides to portage, it's super handy to use your throw bags to move stuff around.
Yep.
Another thing that's great to have that's super affordable, it's like you can get a good one for like $12.99 on Amazon, are climbing slings.
Yes.
If
Make life a lot easier.
Yeah, and if you pick a material like Dyneema, and even nylon is not water absorbent at all. Dyneema is perfectly not water absorbent, but it's It's a tiny bit more expensive, like 18 to $20 usually for the same length.
Yeah.
It's tensile load is like 2,200 pounds or greater for most of the common diameters you'd want. But those slings work the same way. You can use them also to carry boats, drag boats if you need to get a empty boat ferried across a hard eddy line to get it back to where the swimmer is
Yeah.
on the opposite shore. It can be more convenient than pulling out your throw rope,
Your
tying
big
off
old rope and
knots.
then
Yeah.
having to put it all the way back in, you know? Yeah.
So
Um,
it's
the
really be
answer is
situation
it
appropriate.
depends, you
It
know?
does.
It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you need it for.
It does depend. But at the most important thing though is have one. Just
Yeah.
have one because it's a real one thing I've always paid attention to is if people I'm paddling with carry throw bags and if they don't. And I've only ever met one or two that were staunchly against ever getting a throw bag. And I was like, okay. But it kind of speaks a lot to a person you may have just met as to whether or not they're carrying a throw bag because
Yeah.
that's the most ubiquitous piece of safety equipment used in our sport, whether you're in a raft or kayak or whatever you're doing. Having
For sure.
you know rope that's deployable when you're working with moving current is a huge safety benefit.
Yeah.
So carry one, know how to use it,
Yep.
throw it
Yep.
before you need to use it for real.
Yeah, I would not say that it does not it doesn't really matter, I think, if you're like, "Oh, the 30-foot is the best," or, "Oh, the 60-foot is the best." It's 1, personal preference, and 2, just whatever situation you're in.
And it's a tool
Yeah.
like anything. If you don't, there are varying degrees of skill of throw bag use and rope use in general,
Yeah, for
which is
sure.
another good reason. I don't know if it was in our announcements. I think it was the ACA
No,
certifications
that's
that we're
not. That's,
doing.
I think that might be on the DL, but
Oh, well,
yeah.
but the
No
Swiftwater
ACA
rescue, the
certificate. Yes, the
Swiftwater
Swift
rescue
Router
that that's
is in the
in.
later announcements.
So the reason I bring that up now while we're talking about ropes is that's the piece of equipment you're going to use most in Swiftwater
Yes,
training
for sure.
and learning how to effectively use a rope. So if you have a opportunity to take a Swiftwater class, whether it's through us or through anyone,
Yep,
it helps you and it helps everyone you will ever paddle with to be safer on the water. Period, bar none.
yep, for sure, and I'm looking forward to taking one.
It's a lot of fun.
It
It
is.
also is added benefit to it that I never realized until I took one, and I haven't taken one in like a long time. Like I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I took one at NOC one time. And anyway, it's um a really good immersion therapy if you have
A fear.
a fear
Yeah,
like we talked about last week, lingering fear from being worked in a hole or something like that. Well, you're going to go jump in one anyway and
yeah,
be rescued from it many times. And it's a good way to get yourself over any kind of fear of being out of your boat in whitewater, and
mhm,
kind of that helps keep you from ending up out of your boat, helps keep you relaxed because you will learn and become more comfortable with what it feels like to be in a hole with.
yeah, definitely.
you
You will
know
be forced in that situation.
Yep.
All
So
right,
highly recommend.
our next question is what role to learn as a beginner?
Whew,
My answer is the one that works.
that's literally what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
there is a lot of debate on which paddle where which role is better, a C to C versus sweep roll. Eric likes to light that fire.
It's an endless debate, and it's like many unsolved mysteries of
Yes.
life. There will always be difference
Yep.
in arguments because it's a pendulum.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be at one side or the other. It's a shades of gray situation. Sometimes one is better than the other. There are also other roles besides the sweep and the C to C. And if you want to get into them a whole lot, and there was a really cool exhibition at Outdoor X. I forget. Do you remember his name?
It was probably Joe Frey. I wasn't
Yeah, that
there.
sounds familiar. He used a
Um,
Greenland paddle,
yes. Yeah,
and
it's definitely Joe Frey
he did, I
or
don't know,
Fry.
16 different types of
Yeah.
rolls, and it's if you don't know, a Greenland paddle is like 2 offset isosceles triangles.
Yeah.
They're very
Really
thin,
skinny thing.
tiny. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not round either. Like,
No.
it's kinda like using a 2 by 4.
It's a pretty cool thing to look at, but,
Yeah, if you look it up on YouTube and check it out, you'll see they can roll with their paddle in just about any
Yeah.
position, and there's also, like, at least 12 or 16 different types of rolls that they do, and these are intended for ocean,
Yeah.
which is no way, shape, or form any less hard to roll in than a hole or
Yeah.
something else. You've got surge, breaking waves, and they work.
They
So
do.
um, the
Yeah.
best one is what works for you and
Best
what feels natural to you or repeat that you understand. Because, like we've touched on in many of these
everything.
videos,
Yes.
is it comes down to variables with the student, the
Yep.
instructor as well. The idea, it's a hard concept to teach because you're underwater and unable to communicate when you're
Underwater,
actually
upside
doing it on your
down,
own. Yeah, disoriented.
Yep.
And so that's why the C to C was actually invented, as far as I understand, back in like the 90s, was to break down a sweep roll, or I think the other one was a storm roll where you end up over your bow. But to break it down, the roll into a simpler set of, hey, follow steps one, set up, two, swing your paddle out to 90 degrees, three, make yourself arch towards the paddle and hip snap up, and then you're up. So it gave it three discrete steps that you could teach, which I do agree is at least teaching the concept of the roll. The
C to C
CDC
is
is easier
definitely
to
easier to
teach,
teach than a sweep roll is,
but it requires
but it
flexibility.
requires flexibility and, it really requires a good hip snap because a sweep roll you can kinda slide by with a little weak hip snap.
And so let's talk about that for a second, because I think it always gets said, but a lot of people don't talk about why
Yeah,
that difference is.
that's an engineer question, you can talk about it.
But you know the answer as a playboater. But I can give you all the
Do
math
I?
if you want. Yeah, you do, because which one do you have longer duration of time with your paddle supported during?
I don't
See, this is fun to do live, and, like, since it's
know.
still semi a student, it's just like being in class. But no, the answer is a sweep roll. Your paddle blade is engaged, moving through the water for a longer period of time, giving you an equal amount of support during that period of time than it is during the C to C, for the simple reason that as you sweep out, anywhere really between, if this is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees with your paddle, anywhere between 10 degrees and 90 degrees, and actually even past it, you'll still come up with a halfway decent hip snap. And if you keep your head down and don't bring your left hand across your chest,
Yeah,
we call it punching out a lot. And that's easy to easy to say how to fix, but it's muscle
hard to do.
memory, like we talked about before, where you just have to get it down. Sometimes it helps. We'll hold a student's hand against the boat because you just want your forward hand moving for both those rolls. But to the point of why one gives you a longer period of time is, and if you think about it, it makes sense. You have that whole arc length of the sweep to perform a hip snap. So if your hip snap is a little less snappy, um, you still will come up just fine, because you get your max moment of support when your paddle is at 90 degrees, and it falls off after 90 degrees, and it's building up on its way to 90 degrees. So with a sweep, if you're timing your hip snap as you want to have it end about when the paddle's around 90 degrees, and you will come up. And that's where the argument that C to C is stronger
Yep,
is both true, but there's also and it depends here, and it is also based in physics and just basic mechanics of motion. But just lucky for you guys, that's what I do for my side job.
yeah. Your
And
side job.
yeah,
The
so
one that actually gets paid.
I know we have at least one viewer. I don't know if Stephanie's on, but it cracks me up. She is my tribe, with that stuff, and she responded well a couple times. I use the term moment when talking about it, which is a force applied perpendicular to something is called a moment. But
Nerd.
exact, oh, full on nerd, always been. Can't help that. But point being, you have your maximum moment at 90 degrees, and as part of that argument for C to C versus sweep, one being stronger than the other. If you're doing a sweep roll that's hip snapping and ending right when your paddle's at 90 degrees, it's just as strong as the C to C is, because the difference with the C to C is you do not hip snap. You move your paddle first 90 degrees, then hip snap.
Yep.
And so from the stance of your paddle's at 90 degrees when you perform your entire hip snap. Yep, it's a stronger roll, and that's where you get that one big impulse
Yeah.
burst of energy that is a rotational force or a torque. Um, and of course, this is all about your axis of gyration, rotation, and
Oh yeah,
goodness.
all
But
that important stuff, you know.
everything I've said is true, Ed.
I'm not saying it's not true. It's just a little scientific for
But
my
to
20-year-old
tie
brain.
it back to why it matters for kayaking is you have a longer duration during a sweep to do a hip snap that's not as snippy, as snappy,
Snappy.
and still come up with just as much success as you do always going to sea to sea. And then again, the most important thing for which one to learn as a beginner is what makes sense to
Yep.
you, what
What
feels
works, what
right.
what
Yeah.
happens.
A lot of it comes down to arm length.
Yes, that's
Like
true.
people
Flexibility.
with
Being able to do this,
yep,
that's a hard motion to do.
flexibility, and then just your proportions. People with long torsos and long arms,
Yeah.
and Clint, as you've met Clint,
Yeah.
Clint's got nice giant arms, and
Yeah.
I'm like, man,
Woo!
like that's amazing. Like his paddle's completely out of the water when he does anything upside down, and
Yeah.
it's for me not the case.
Our next question is a dry suit versus a two-piece. So that's a dry
Yeah,
pants and dry top. I will say both of us are going to be very biased on this question because neither of us have a dry suit.
we're dirtbag boaters.
Yes. So my typical cold weather paddling outfit is this is a Farmer John wetsuit. It's a Farmer John because it looks like overalls. It's kind of hard to see because it's all black.
Drop it down.
Yeah. But so that's my base layer when it's really cold. If it's not so cold,
Oh, by the way, so while we do this, this is neoprene. Neoprene is more insulating than other things like capilene, which is what a lot of the lighter weight stuff is made out of these days. When you're looking for cold water gear, you want neoprene. It is what wetsuits are made out of because it is way better at keeping the water trapped against your body, which then
is
warms
your
up,
insulating
and
layer.
that's how
Yeah.
it keeps you warm, because that's why it's called a wetsuit.
This
But they're
is
very effective. So neoprene wetsuits come in different thicknesses as well. So don't get a super thin one for really, really cold water.
This is my shorty wetsuit. So this is basically the same thing. It's all neoprene, just covers less of your body, mostly the core. I use that when it's cold, but not quite so cold. And finally, old reliable. I have a nice NRS almost dry top. There is no neck gasket, so it's not an official dry top, but there is wrist gaskets, which are just rubber that keeps the water out, shuts around your wrist. And then I do lots of base layers. If I'm paddling and I know it's going to be really cold, I'll wear 2 layers of just tights, leggings, and then an Under Armour or 2 on top.
And careful with when you're layering, do not ever use cotton for
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Two, whatever it should be as hydrophobic as possible.
Yeah.
Meaning it does not absorb water.
Yep.
Because otherwise you're going to be in for a soggy, very cold day.
So this is leggings that my lovely girlfriend uses when she is paddling in late August when it starts getting cold. These are neoprene leggings. They're just not like wetsuit proof. So
these are slightly thinner too than
Yeah.
Ed's Farmer John, which is Ed's Farmer John is probably 3mm or 4mm.
I have no idea.
So I've dove scuba dive a lot since I was like 12 or 14. I don't know. But anyway, been around lots of wetsuits.
Yes.
And that's at least 3 or 3.5mm, which is the thicker end. Just reason I bring this up is anybody out there shopping or looking around, when you're looking at neoprene wetsuits, just bear in mind that each increase in thickness, which it's usually like anywhere from 0.5mm up to about 4mm. Scuba diving shops and stuff, you can find 6mm and 7mm stuff for real cold, long immersion
Yeah.
deep water, but you're not gonna generally want that. But do be aware it's out there, and the thickness and it increases its warmth ratio. So
I will say that using that setup, I have never been frigid on the river before. I've been a little bit cold before, but I've never been, "Oh my god, I gotta get off. I'm gonna get hypothermia." I
I've gotten hypothermia, and even I wasn't having those kind of
well,
thoughts.
you
I
talked about
know.
our you talked about it last week. But I will say convenience-wise, a dry top or dry suit seems much more convenient than being able to put all that on and then, taking it all off, and because at the end of the day, when it's all wet, that's the worst part.
And carrying around multiple
Yes.
pieces or leaving or forgetting multiple
Yeah.
pieces, which is something I've done. I too, so Eric actually gave me a dry suit, which is great, but it is so big that there's not a chance. So I am going
Yeah.
to give that back to him. But I never had a dry suit till this summer when Eric gave me that, and I just recently tried it on, and not gonna work out. But it actually felt like restricting at this point. I've never owned a dry suit. I've done a lot of cold water paddling, and I do regularly paddle year round and have. My standard get up is it's very similar to Ed's. I usually just wear wetsuit pants that are separate pants, and mine are the ones I wear just because I'm usually, as long as I'm paddling, even after a swim or something like that, I've been fine in like 2.5 mil or 2 mil wetsuit pants, because the tighter they are or thicker they are, the tighter they are, the more restrictive they are as well. So I find for comfort reasons, I just wear those with a swimming suit, and then I'll have on generally some type of fleece lined neoprene as a base layer top. If it's really, really cold, I'll have on really thick neoprene lined fleece layer. Immersion Research does sell a lot of really good
Yeah.
stuff. So does NRS.
IR and NRS are definitely the
They,
best brands
yeah.
to go through. I have seen a couple reviews of an Alibaba dry top,
So yeah, and I've
which
seen
is
it.
surprisingly, reviewed pretty well.
Well, and I've seen it. I've talked to him in it, or one of the Pete Beck,
Yeah,
the River
the
King.
River King.
So
The River
it'd be
King, come on.
remiss not to
Yeah,
to mention the King, but no, I talked to him about it actually. That down at Nancy Haley had it on.
yeah, and he
And
probably still uses his Devil's Club,
well,
doesn't
this
he?
was over a year after his initial review of the Temu dry suit, which was like $149.
Yeah,
And so a dry suit, as long as it keeps you dry, like a dry suit doesn't give you warmth, it keeps you from getting wet. It's got gaskets at the neck, and it's got a closed foot system. It looks like kid pajamas.
yeah,
Um,
footies.
and you can even buy really cool things like union suits and stuff, which is one of the giveaways that
Yeah,
IR gave us to be giving away in this coming year. So be out there ready to
racing and
race.
competing.
And yeah, it's it's a women's union suit. So
Yeah,
it's going to
women's
be,
small.
yeah, it's going to be a limited competition. But
Yeah.
I actually do rock one piece of IR gear that I found out years after I got it was women's and never knew. And it's fleece and it's awesome. And it works just the same.
Yeah,
So don't negate that if you see closeout gear that says it's for women. If it fits you, it fits you.
it fits. It fits.
I got it for like $40. It
Yeah.
retailed for like 300.
That's
So
pretty good.
I still have it. But yeah, with regard to the dry suit, it is the safest thing to wear out in cold water paddling. I obviously do wear a dry top on
Yep.
top of whatever my base layers are. I do not wear gloves or pogies. I have tried actually for a while with both, and I don't like them. They, I just don't like it. It's a personal preference thing for me. My hands get cold when I initially get in the water, I guess, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I paddled like the Skycomish and very northern Washington State, which is ice melt and cold conditions, and that same get up that we both basically wear, and it's been fine. I've swam also, so it's There are dry pants that are sold separate of dry tops.
Yes,
They
which
they
is
work just
typically a little bit
fine, but for the
cheaper than a whole dry suit.
yeah, usually you'll save
To
like
do a pant top combo, but if you're gonna spring for the pants, I'd probably just go for the dry suit.
I agree.
Um,
And one reason is I've personally seen more than one person get a top and bottom set and be upset that water still gets in
yeah,
because guess what? No matter how it attaches, it's not one
gonna seal.
piece
Yeah,
like a dry suit is. So it's going to let a little bit of water in. And kind of fun thing about never having had a dry suit or whatever, but is I don't know if it's fun, but if you're completely dry, you're really going to notice that one
that
cold
one
water
drop. Yeah,
drop that comes down is going to be just brutal. But if you're already just got a wetsuit
you're
that's keeping
embracing
you
it. You
warm,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're embracing it, and you're full on, and it's not that big of a deal. You don't feel that one drop. So I argue it's worse to have that one drop get through your dry suit
yeah,
than. But yeah, it's great piece of equipment to have if you uh, can get your hands on one and can afford one. I do
yeah.
recommend them. Everybody I paddle with has one now,
That's not
except
true. I don't.
Ed's my one good buddy that does not. But yeah, it's you don't have to have it, but it's definitely the most
Yeah,
the best
for sure.
option.
And then he did talk about pogies briefly. I do use pogies. Um, I think they are way better than neoprene gloves.
See, gloves I can't stand. If I was going to do anything, pogies would be the way I'd go. I just found myself not using them
Yep.
most of the time, so I
And
stopped.
then pogies work pretty much the same way that wetsuits do, where they just kind of your hands will get cold, but the water will insulate and keep you warm. Um,
They help
I
keep the wind off too, which
Yes,
is
which
really
is
your
really
hands
the killer.
drying
Yeah.
is what's like, yeah, it's like, oof.
So I do use pogies. I think they're great. I don't use them all the time, but if it's really cold, I will use them. If the water snow melt, I tend to use them unless I was somewhere warm. Um, but yeah, that's my typical cold weather outfitting. It works for me. I have been in water with my Farmer John on and been just fine. So I mean, it works. It's not quite as comfortable as a dry suit is, and it definitely takes longer to put on than a dry suit does. But for where I am in my life, it works well. I don't know if I'd ever make the switch just because I'm kind of a cheapskate, but
And that's, I mean, I never have,
yeah,
and I could have a lot. I mean, I could right now, and
yeah,
it's no argument. I mean, there's a lot of arguments that I should, but I've done it so long. It's like
yeah,
they actually feel kind of cumbersome.
for sure. All right. So our next to last question is happy feet versus foam in playboats. The short answer is use foam in your playboat.
Huh.
Happy feet are really comfortable if you are a
Recreational boater.
recreational boater or paddler who's getting into playboating, but they're not trying to do anything crazy. Maybe a flat spin or two. I will say I had happy feet in all of the funds that I paddled. Um, and if they work fine, but I would say use foam.
I 100% agree with you. I just say it. I hate happy feet. I hate happy seats. They're the opposite of what I want, even in a creek boat, to be honest. Though there are some arguments for that, but the main one in not using it in a creek boat is if you're in a creek boat, generally you're doing something pretty steep where you do want a floating bulkhead to absorb that shock, not a bag full of air that changes volume as a function of temperature. And to get back into physics, but no, for real, that's what happens. The volume does change in the airbags, both from pressure and imperfect seals, as well as physics reasons. So it doesn't give you a constant point of contact every
Yep.
time you put your feet in the boat with happy feet. And if you have the whole combo, which is how it was initially sold, sorry, whoever at Jackson came up with that, but um,
They're not. Yeah.
I very first time I tried it, I was like, this is incredibly weird. Like, yes, it's more comfortable, but it's so less functional in my opinion because and I was told this by EJ himself as well as every playboater I've ever known for the most part, but you want every point of contact to be rock solid and firm, and you should be mildly uncomfortable at best in
Yep.
a properly outfitted playboat, because with playboating, it's all about rotating the core independent of the lower body and your arms and everything else. So it's everywhere your boat is in contact with you, you need to, if you can transfer your energy into that more efficiently, which is what happens when you have a tight connection, it's allows you to throw bigger tricks. It
Yep.
allows you to even throw some tricks in some cases. And there's a whole art to outfitting a playboat properly. And it's like when I picked up Eric's boat for Worlds, down at Clay Wright's house or whatever, Eric was like, "Hey, just paddle it while you're down there at Rock Island." I paddled with EJ that day, and I had my my Nova with me, my Dagger Nova, which EJ used to paddle for Dagger back in the day. But EJ pulled in right as I pulled in, but I laughed and told Eric, and then Eric knew what I was talking about, of course. But I was like, "Man, I'm not getting in your World's playboat." Like, and he hadn't even outfitted it yet, but
Yeah.
it's just like it was a more of a thing back then, or when I was around that scene more. But it was like the idea of getting in somebody else's playboat, unless you were literally the same like measurements
Yeah.
everywhere, was akin to like kicking somebody's boat or throwing it down a cliff. Like that was like, do not mess with people's outfitting.
Especially because it's a nice carbon boat, you know, you don't
Oh, that's what I
wanna
was like. I'm
it's
not
like, I'm
touching.
not doing that, you
I had
know?
that thing strapped up with all these things. I was so terrified because like also kind of ties into us being cheapskates about dry suits. But when I was around carbon fiber boats and stuff back, like not when they first came out or anything. I mean, the original boats were fiberglass, and
Yep.
then carbon fiber is just a different composite layup than fiberglass. But regardless, the point is like seeing somebody in a carbon fiber boat was like seeing a rock star
Yeah.
celebrity. It was
Yeah.
like, all right, whoever that is must be the like one of the best playboaters, which is still the case. But carbon fiber boats are a lot more common. You can just absolutely can just go buy one, and there's a lot of advantages to them. But at the same time, I've been brought up in that realm of when you see someone in a carbon fiber boat, like you do not touch their boat or anything else.
Yeah.
Treat it like an egg, and much less mess with their outfitting. So
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us to our last question, which is about local winter and spring creeks to run with some good drops on them, and then also just some waterfalls in general. I will say that as far as Ohio creeking goes, I have not done a ton. Mostly because I'm a warm weather paddler. I like it when it's nice out, and I do a lot of skiing when it's not. So I would say your very beginner, easy thing to do is Paint Creek.
yeah,
Have you ever been there?
I have.
Yeah. So it's like 1-2 that ends with a nice class 3 run,
It's
the
really
the
pretty
chutes.
too.
It is a very,
It
very beautiful river.
scenic, super
Um,
scenic
Creek,
place
I
to
guess.
go, and it does have a bit of play on it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just as good as going to Little
Yeah,
Miami
and
a lot
and
of times.
that is a dam released river, so there will be a schedule. I think that's posted on AW, so if you're interested, it's probably on AW, it's probably on Facebook somewhere, but I'm not really sure.
And just in case anybody's not sure, AW is American
Yeah,
Whitewater, which is the predominant yeah, like entity that has allowed river access and protects river access.
yep,
Does pretty much everything for the paddling community at large, and has for I don't even know how many decades
a long
now,
time.
but very long time. And um, I have no affiliation other than I'm a member, but it's if you're in the whitewater community, being an AW member is something you should consider at some point, just because that money goes to keeping access to all the rivers you paddle, as well as providing all types of other things that you never really think about, like putting gravel back into parking turnouts on the
Yep,
sides of roads and stuff that they've maintained access and stuff. So they're great, but also great because for absolutely free, you can go on their website, which is
and
americanwhitewater.org or com.
some
Just Google it,
yeah,
you'll get it.
American Whitewater river gauges, and then you can find
And you also can
every
just go by
gauge,
state
yeah,
once you get
in
in
state.
there. And
Um,
don't forget to look at Kentucky, because Northern Kentucky has a couple different
you
runs like Gunpowder Creek which I have never ran, but I've heard it can be fun at certain
Yep.
levels. I have actually fished it.
Yeah.
I can see where it'd be good. There are a couple people that are kind of local gurus in this area.
Yep.
One would be Chris Green,
Mhm.
who, if you were with our classes this summer at all, is one of our other. He's always around. He's one of our volunteers, and
Yep.
Chris Green knows just about all the creeks and runs around.
Yep. So
Regularly sends pictures of them, actually,
there are
which
three
is awesome.
creeks that are regularly run. O'Banion is one of them. That's
Yeah.
another great beginner creek. That's another one that I have never done.
Oh, okay. So I've
Um,
done a banyan a couple times, and so one thing to keep in mind too with creeking is creeking levels change be with water flow.
yep.
Also, it's way different looking at flow or estimating flow on a river if it's a true creek. But even like O'Banion is not that big. It's like 50 feet wide-ish or whatever in a lot of areas. It does get wider at some parts, but always be scouting for strainers
Yep.
mostly because if something's running, if it's come in and it's rained a bunch, it has also washed debris down. So always be scouting for wood and avoiding wood because strainers are, as we all know, one of the worst things out there to get yourself tangled up in, and they can, quite frankly, just be fatal. So do not mess with strainers. Be on the lookout for them always, or even pre-scout the run to be sure there are no
Yep.
strainers, particularly if it's a roadside run and you're able to do it. It's worth the time to do it because it's your safety at stake. That said, keep in mind that a small increase in flow might one place I've seen this happen is Nantahala Cascades and the Upper Nantahala itself, which is pretty much a creek run, both of them. And people, so the releases are usually 250 or 350 or 400 CFS. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, I mean, it doesn't make a difference really. It's the same level.
It
And
definitely does.
holy cow, you could not be more wrong. Also, just kind of a fun thing to keep in mind too is sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of times at lower water levels, any sheer drop or even angled drop that's steep enough tends to become more retentive at lower flow if the feature still exists.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's a break even point and then where it fades away after that, where you just go right through it or whatever. But a lot of times, the big hole you're worried about or thinking about and being like, oh, it's at high water.
It's
High water
gone.
is your friend in that situation.
Yeah.
Low waters when that hole turns into something you never knew could spank you that bad, and
Yep.
then you find out that day. And it's anyway, something to keep in mind is your flows and levels that you're estimating. You need a lot of times visual gauges.
Yep.
Fortunately, all these rivers, if you go on American Whitewater and go to the Ohio Rivers list, you'll get the ones we're talking about:
Yeah,
O'Banion,
so
Paint
these
Creek.
big the big 3 that I said are most often run are White Oak, O'Banion, and Stone Lick, and those are all 3 gauged,
Yes,
on American Whitewater. I know the Stone Lick gauge is not entirely accurate because it all depends on how much water is going over the dam,
it does.
but if the Stone Lick gauge is running, that's typically a good sign that Stone Lick is running. My other advice when you run these creeks is don't run them alone.
No, definitely
Never
don't
run
solo a
alone.
creek, especially a
Um,
first descent.
and also if it's you and a friend and neither of you done it before, try to find someone who has, just someone who knows where the features are because there are some pretty good holes on a lot of these creeks that will stick you and will hold you for a while.
And Stone Lick's got Upper Stone Lick's got a series, at least 4
Yeah.
ledges that are ledge drops that can be pretty retentive at some
Yes.
levels. You like it's kind of sometimes you can get yourself in a state of disbelief because you're paddling locally. You're like, I just am 15 minutes from 275. I know
Yep.
where I am. Kroger's is by the takeout. Like it's easy to delude yourself into safety is what I'm getting at. Just remember you are putting on real whitewater and like White Oak, which is the one I've done the most out of all of them, and I think is probably the best overall run. It's uh, got pretty different characteristics as the water level goes up, but at high water, it's very similar to the New River Dries
Yep.
size waves that I was talking about last week and holes. Not quite as big as the Dries, but close enough by all means. And it's one of the best play boating runs out there, and it's like a half hour from most of us.
Yeah.
It's a great run. So
I have my notes for White Oak are 2-3 low medium at big water. It gets huge and it's 3-4.
Yeah,
So be careful. Know your group, know your abilities. Um,
have
and
a rope and know how to use it.
have a rope, know how to use it. And then I went through before this and I looked at some of the runs that were within an hour of Cincinnati and Dayton that just were ranked class
There's
2,
2 others. Oh, class 2, okay.
ranked
Yeah.
class 2, class 3. So Rattlesnake, everybody knows Rattlesnake is a 20-foot waterfall, but there is a
Section,
mile and a half
yeah, above
above
it.
that, which is supposedly class 2 with a couple drops in it.
It
Um,
is.
we'll talk about Rattlesnake again a little bit later when we start talking about waterfalls. Another one that my parents used to run all the time was Big Indian Creek,
I drove past it by chance.
which is it's off 50,
Yeah,
and it is not so it's not gauged, and you have to know someone who lives close, which fortunately I do, to go check if it's in, and that is supposedly class 3. It's not been run in a really long time to my knowledge,
which
so
usually means it warrants a scout
at
at low or no water or whatever
yep,
its state is
and
to see
check
if
for
it's full
wood.
of trees. Yeah,
Yes,
because that's
um,
usually it usually will be if it's not been ran in a long time.
and then there is Brushy Fork, which is a, feeder stream for Stone Lick. I have not run that at all, but
I
I've
haven't ran
heard
it
that
either.
it's pretty tight, pretty creaky, but still a lot of fun when it's in. Um, Another one that I found was Halls Creek, and I've never heard about it. It's never, I,
So I've looked at Halls and Horner
yep,
Creek, and I've never caught them in. I
yeah.
don't
So
know if they
the
ever run.
the
I've never
gauge,
found anyone that knows if they
it
run.
says needs a ton of rain, so
That yeah,
it's probably like
it
if everything else is washed out, maybe it's worthwhile to go look at this.
yeah.
Um, and then
If anyone ever does know it's running, I really do want to run both of those.
yeah, so my goal for this week or for this winter is to run as many of the creeks as I can,
Yeah.
just because there's a lot of so if you look at the AW entries, they're from 2007.
Yeah, there's
Rivers change. Um,
well, and Mark Branch, who's a local
yep.
paddler too, he wrote half of those, and I think Matt Bodecker was on a
Uh,
lot of those trips. I know that
Don Brandon, I know wrote a
crew,
lot too.
Don wrote them.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
But so it's one of those things, just like maybe get a little bit of updated knowledge on them, and so that's kind of my goal. One of my goals for this winter is to go hit up a bunch of these creeks and see what's going on. Um, Chris Green, we talked about earlier, he says the best creek in all of Ohio is Lee's Creek,
I've
which
never done
I
it.
have never run. It's close to Rattlesnake, and
Heard about it from Chris, but
it's also one of those ones that's not gauged, so it's kinda just a crapshoot if you go up there, but if Rattlesnake is really high, he said Lee's Creek is probably in. Um, so those are all the creeks that I had written. Do you have anything else?
I mean, you've got it there, but so there's Rattlesnake itself, which is most people are going there for the draw of the 20-foot
Yeah.
waterfall that's there, which is it's a really good first waterfall.
Yes.
If you're ready to run
First
waterfalls,
big waterfall
yeah,
for sure.
first big waterfall. It's pretty clean lip and
Yeah,
not
so
not a lot to it. There's a great surf wave right above it too when you're feeling more confident that you
yeah,
can surf and then peel off and huck the falls, and then you also can climb right back up and just do it over and over and over again. So it's a huck and park or park and huck,
yep.
more commonly in my knowledge and history than it is go run that
Yeah,
class
that
2
upper
section
section.
above there.
Um,
Nothing wrong
so
with it,
when
but
we talk about these waterfalls, one, know your ability level. These no matter how easy we make these sound, they're still waterfalls,
and the
and
consequences of
things
landing flat, for example, are breaking your back,
yeah,
breaking your
things
neck.
can go wrong with waterfalls,
And
so
just like most things, like the
yep.
bigger they are, the harder it
Yes.
fall applies here. So when you're getting into vertical drops and
Yep.
things like that, the risks are higher. And it's not a class 5 waterfall at Rattlesnake by any means. By waterfall scales, it's like a class 3 minus It's an easy lip,
Yeah,
no
it's a
consequence
very
landing.
it was my first waterfall ever, and Eric and I ran it twice, and it's just
See, like
super
Baby Falls was
it's
mine, but
super clean and super it was it's easy because once you're there, you're going, you know,
yeah,
there's no
it's that's the best thing about a waterfall is you approach the lip like
yeah,
there's a feeling of calmness because there's nothing you can do
yeah,
except do it.
you're going, so,
Yeah.
and then there is a slide in Greenville Creek. I don't know if you've ever run it, I have not.
I haven't. I
Um,
don't even know about this
it
slide.
is so it's in Greenville, like I said, the AW page. I know, um, Jaden, if you're in here, you ran this last year, I think. Um, but so Greenville, it's a nice slide. It was compared to, Bridal Veil, on the Tallulah.
Uh,
So it's just
Sticky at the bottom.
a little sticky at the bottom, but, yeah, at Greenville it's called Greenville Falls. It's really a slide. It's one of the few slides that I know about in Ohio.
It's in Ohio.
Yes, I think. I'm not I mean, it was listed on the Ohio gauge. So, Greenville's Falls is, like I said, a slide, really seems like it's lappable. It's in the middle. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't really know where it's at, but it looks like it's lappable because it looks like it's in some sort of urban-ish area. Um, you can lap Rattlesnake.
Yeah,
My
the takeout's kinda tricky there.
my notes for that, that you have to it's a climb out. It's not like a scramble out. You have to
It
do some rock climbing to get out of there.
and it is where you use your throw rope.
Yep. But
Tie your boat to it, climb
like
up.
I said, it is possible to lap it. I know some of the Dayton guys, were lapping it before Eric and I got there that day, and they had done, like, 5 or 6 laps, which was pretty impressive
Oh,
because
yeah, it'll
after
wear
my
you
second
out.
time climbing up, I was like, "I don't really feel a third," you know? Um,
Yeah, throwing rock climbing in the mix with a boat and
yeah.
everything
Um,
else is,
and then
a lot.
Ludlow Creek, I've never done, but there is it's in, like, pretty much in downtown Dayton. It's a
I've never
10
done
or
it.
15-foot waterfall.
Nice.
It looks super clean. It's super lappable because it's literally in the middle of a suburb.
I'm all for it.
Um, I would say as far as beginner waterfalls go, just from what I've seen, this is probably the best one in our area. I don't know for sure because 'cause I've never done it, but
Yeah, I've never heard
it
of it.
looks super clean, looks like it goes. It is kind of a water quality issue, but, we're fine. And then the last 2 waterfalls that I think are worth talking about are, Massey's Creek, but this is not a beginner drop.
No, the
The
Massey's Creek's like class 4 plus 5 minus,
Yeah,
like,
this is a advanced, know what you're
there's
doing drop. I have
3
not
other
done it.
drops right after it.
Yep.
So it's like
You're in a gorge, so there's no way out,
yeah, you don't
um,
wanna swim. Um,
but it
I
is
found
lappable. It's
it's a great place to go if you're at that level
yeah,
and, it's super accessible. The AW listing does give a warning about
it is questionably legal.
yeah,
So,
just
the
for
what
no particular reason, we wanna mention that we are in no
yes.
way, shape,
Yeah,
form
I'm not
endorsing
paying your
any
ticket.
illegal activities. I've ran it, and it
So,
was fine, everything was great. Be
from
aware
what
people will be there watching you because it's a park with a overlook.
yes, what I've heard is that you can't, like, hop a park fence to put on, but if you go upstream a little bit,
You just
you're
go
fine.
that's what we did anyway.
Um, I that's what I've heard that there is success in doing that,
It
Matt
used to be said I've heard from other people, I've never had anyone of any it's always secondhand that it was not runnable at all, like,
yeah. So, the drop we're talking about used to be a dam, and then something kinda broke, so it kinda turned into this little
yeah, it's got a
two-tier drop,
really cool lake off the right-hand side of
um,
it.
and I was there at, like, 600 CFS, which the boil looked like it would shove you back into the kinda low head section of the dam, so we went and ran Rattlesnake instead just because it's a little bit safer. Um, but I've heard that the prime level for it is like 150,
Yeah,
two
like
hundred, something like that.
150.
And then that boil is not in play, because if you don't know, boils can be one of the most dangerous parts of waterfalls, because they can just not can refuse, they can reject you all the time and keep you in the waterfall, in the curtain, in the hydraulic that it's creating.
Yeah.
You definitely wanna know what you're doing when you're running waterfalls, you definitely wanna know where
Yeah.
you are and who have a good group,
It's
set
not
safety.
in any way, shape, or form as simple as it seems
No.
going off the edge of a waterfall. There is skill to it, just like there is every other aspect of paddling, where it, and again, with increased, risk like that, increase of risk of physical harm is at least
Yeah.
doubled, if not exponential. It's something that you need to know whether or not, for example, to plug off a drop or boof off a drop is the very first thing you need to know.
Yep.
And that's determined by the condition of the water at the bottom. Is it aerated? Is it flat, laminar flow, smooth looking water? It's, I mean, I've seen someone break their back, just off a 20-foot waterfall by landing in the green water, which is another way you'll hear the flat water
Yep.
or laminar flow water being referred to, because that's just like if you've ever belly smacked off a diving board, you're doing that. But if you're sat in your kayak properly and you boof off something and land on it flat, making the boof sound, it'll be the loudest boof you've ever heard too. But
Yeah.
all that force goes directly down your entire spinal column,
Yep.
and it's a ton of force. It's your entire body weight being reacted into itself. And if you hit flat like that, it can break your back
For
or
sure.
worse. Also, you can easily smack your face on the cockpit coaming, break your hand with
Or
your
your paddle
head.
if you hold it, like, right here.
Yeah, definitely get your paddle off to one side or the other. Careful, if none of the waterfalls around here that we've talked about
Or
warrant throwing your
yeah.
paddle ever. Don't do it,
Yep.
because like Massey's Creek, you're gonna need your paddle like 2 seconds later. Not 2 seconds, but
Pretty quickly
yeah,
after.
don't throw your paddle on any of these. Rattlesnake could hopefully end up in the eddy, but if it didn't, it'd be an issue.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a limit of what I will do in my kayak, and huge waterfalls are not it for me. I've done, like I said, I've done Rattlesnake, and honestly, I don't know if I wanna go too much bigger than that, and, just the risk to reward thing for me isn't
it's
worth it.
most of the time
I'm
not.
scared of heights too, which is kind of like one thing I love, one thing I hate type of relationship. But there's just so much risk when you run a waterfall, even if you're so good that like you'll be fine. But
It's not really about
there's
that.
no
It comes back to
guarantee.
that, why are you doing it?
Yep.
And then what are you getting out of it? Like, to do it once or twice or to find your own personal limits is generally how it goes. And if you find yourself addicted to the feeling of going over higher and higher waterfalls, there's a very, very small contingent of paddlers you will find yourself running around with. And
Yep.
all their videos are on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
They're amazing. It's unreal what they run. But
Not for
yeah,
me.
I'm not, especially at this point, I'm not interested in that level of running a, 192-foot waterfall,
Yep.
or even anything remotely close to that for that matter. Like nothing above like 50 or 60 feet really seems that appetizing to me.
Yep.
And that's mostly due to what Ed said. It's not worth the risk, or likelihood of bodily damage.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last thing, it's not within an hour. Most of these creeks are within an hour of Cincinnati or Dayton. But if you're looking for like a great waterfall experience, you want something to lap, go to Cuyahoga.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Um,
fun. Hopefully this year it's not a
yeah, so
rainy weekend,
last
but,
year at Cuyahoga Falls Fest, we got a ton of rain in a short amount of time, which caused the thing to spike, the river to spike, and the second drop, which is the taller of the two, had a super nasty hydraulic on it.
Yeah, the video I wasn't there, I just saw the video
Um,
Eric took, and it looked brutal.
but if you're just looking for it, it's a great lappable waterfall. It
The first drop looks
it
like
looks
well, I mean, I have paddled it before, I just wasn't there last year, but,
yeah,
like, the first drop is also trickable if
yeah,
you're into doing waterfall
yeah.
tricks, like
I've
free
never been
wheels.
up there to do it. Last year was the first year I was going up to do it, but like I said, we got rained out for the Cuyahoga Falls Fest. But
Well, you ran Tinkers, didn't
I
you?
did run Tinker's
Which
Creek
is
instead,
another one worth mentioning
which is
if you're up
another
there.
creek. Yeah, if it's in, it's a great creek, but it's class 4, so know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also a waterfall on that, but it was so high when we ran Tinkers that no one even considered running the waterfall at all. Yeah, that is my list of creeks that I think you should check out this winter, especially at a class 2, 3 level. If you do it a lot, you know, obviously you'd want to progress through. So I'd say start if you're looking for a starting point, start with Paint Creek or a Banyan
Well, and the
and
other
then
one
move
just
your
by
way up.
Dayton real quick that I just
Yeah.
there's obviously Buck Creek over there by
Buck Creek, yeah,
Wittenberg. By all means, go there, be aware water quality is a huge issue there, and just don't get it in your mouth or ears or
yeah,
nose.
just spit it
Just
out.
yeah, don't yeah. Um, the but I think there's a 5-mile run above the Snyder Park play
I
park.
think there is too. Never done it.
Yeah, I've never
But
done it either. I've just done the play park, but
I've seen, like, videos of it, and it looks like there's
I
a
I think it's
drop
like
or 2 in there.
the initial rapid, if I remember right on that one, is called the Chutes, and it's like 2 plus, 3 minus
Yep.
at water level dependent, and the rest of it's pretty much class 2 plus or 2,
Yeah,
until you get to the play park, which is pretty manageable. That you can get 8 up in those.
for sure.
They have some pretty fast
Seen
eddies at
yeah,
higher flows, but there's Buck Creek, but then the Mad River itself,
Mad
which
River,
flows
yep.
in. Obviously, with rain is running too, and that's a great class 2
Yep.
run. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say class 2 for sure.
Yeah, what it's
Um,
rated.
yeah. So we had some other stuff to talk about, but we're at our hour, so we'll probably save that for next week.
Yeah, I think we touched on
Um,
most of it.
and we'll just end up with our general announcements here. If you're here, go ahead and leave a like. Really appreciate it. Kind of boosts us out to everybody else. Leave a comment if you haven't already.
Isn't there like a what's the was it like, subscribe, and
Like, subscribe, yeah, all the fun stuff. But really,
do those YouTube things?
it does help a lot with the
It
algorithm
really
and
does.
get Eric's content out there to more and more people because that's what we're really trying to do at the end of the day is grow the sport.
Exactly, and we will be bringing guests back on starting really soon.
Yep.
Gonna be tied up with Thanksgiving, so people are busy doing stuff right now,
Yep.
but you're stuck with me and Ed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, hit us up on whatever form of social media you want,
Yep.
but we're gonna continue with the YouTube thing, especially with this sweet
Nice
rig
setup over here,
Ed's
yeah.
got now. It's pretty crazy.
And then our last couple announcements is January 24th, there's a gear swap at Mad Tree Brewery. It's a great time. It's like an all sport gear swap. So there's like skis, snowboards.
Times I've gone incredibly cheap prices too.
Whitewater Warehouse brings kayaks down. There's a couple people selling their own kayaks there, and it's also at a brewery, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, most of the times I've only been a couple times, but the times I've gone, there's like been half the people there like were selling stuff,
Yeah,
or even if they weren't like openly selling stuff, they had stuff like in the car, like, oh,
yeah,
I got
yeah,
a jacket, I'll sell you if you
yeah,
want. It's just
and like mountain bikes and stuff too, and
yes,
climbing gear. I've seen a ton of stuff there.
kayaks.
Um, so that's at Matry on the 24th. There's a Swift Rotter rescue course on April 18th and the 19th. Um, Jeremy talked about it earlier about kind of leaking that we are taking an ACA class, so we will
Getting
be
a recertified.
certified to teach a Swift water rescue course by the time that happens. So that's like I said, the April 18th and 19th. I highly recommend that you do that. It's a very important skill. When we were on
Yeah,
Tinkers,
it truly is.
I was one of the few situations where I was like, I wish I was Swift Rotter certified because it was a day.
Well, that
Um,
whole weekend from the stories I heard.
yeah, it was a day. So I highly recommend that at no matter what skill level you are, you take a Swift water rescue course. It doesn't have to be ours, but it could be.
The
and you'd
earlier
probably
on
have
you
a ton of
in
fun.
your career paddling wise that you do it, the better off because it's these skills are not just applicable to high level boaters or
Yeah.
anything like that. They're applicable to anyone doing anything around the water. The other people you'll see taking it all the time is the fire department
Yes.
because they also have to take it. It's especially with rainfalls that we're regularly getting,
Yeah.
which will likely continue into the foreseeable future. It's good to know how to act around swiftly moving water in general, and that's what Swiftwater is about. There's not a whole lot of kayak specific stuff really. It's more about the rescue aspect of it. It's what do you do when you're both out of your boat
Yep.
situations. There
Yep.
is kayak stuff as well,
Yep.
but yeah.
And then we have Cuyahoga Falls Fest. We were just talking about that. That is going to be on April 25th this year. Keep your eye on the Keel Hauler Facebook page. Don Howdy Show is the guy that puts that together, and he typically gets a room deal at the Sheridan, which is that hotel that it literally overlooks the
Yeah,
falls.
if you don't know, it has balcony or windows that overlook the
Yeah.
falls directly. That's
So
perfect.
he normally gets a kayaker discount for rooms there. Just keep your eyes peeled for that stuff, and we'll talk about it when we do see it. As far as giveaways going on right now, we have the Strava challenges, which Jeremy is still on top of, unfortunately.
I don't want to be. Somebody needs to go beat it.
So there is a
I'm
cash
gonna add
prize.
another one to it, I think, soon, which is an
Okay.
attainment one.
Yep. So
But
there's
just keep an eye out for Strava challenges. You'll see
there's
'em.
a cash prize for whoever has the fastest time from Kelly's to Jim Terrell Park.
Mhm.
Then that will be given out on race
Race
day,
day,
which is um,
February, blah 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 blah.
February 2nd, I believe. So if you're on the fence, I think it's women's and men's divisions. So go out there, shred, have fun. That
Last year
is,
was amazing. I was
yeah,
blown away. I had no idea it was gonna be that big.
Kelly's Nature Preserve to Jim Terrell Park. And then I actually don't know this if this is true still, but I'm gonna say that it is because you should all be buying things from Whitewater Warehouse.
I'll find out because I need a skirt
Yeah,
for
there
real
is
now.
or was 3 free things at Whitewater
I'm
Warehouse.
not gonna take it.
You should go buy something, support a local business. We love being able to have a paddling shop so close to home. And Bernie and Gerald are
And their numbers on
amazing people.
their website,
Yep,
which is Facebook.
yep,
And so even if they're closed, if you just call them within reasonable hours, they'll literally just go meet you at the store and it'll be just you. And
yeah.
they're way more knowledgeable than either of us, in my
Yes, they
opinion.
are.
So they will hook you up and set you right.
So that is what we have tonight. Thank you guys for listening, watching. Go ahead, leave like, comment, subscribe, do all the
That's it.
like the
That's what
YouTube
they
stuff.
say.
Yeah. I'm Ed. That's Jeremy, and we'll see you on the river.
Take it easy, guys.
And we have outro music.
Oh, we did again. We gotta use that.